Boruto can tap into the demigod form to get rid of all the Shinjus, but would he take the risk of doing it? Ever since the Ten Tails has gained awareness and intelligence, theories about how they will go down have been flooding the internet. Something a lot of major casualties will happen since the writers need to show us what happens when a Shinju feeds on their instinctual target, while some think of them as one-arc villains who are only there for the development of characters like Kawaki and the others. Well, today we will discuss 4 potential ways for the conclusion of the Shinju arc, with number 3 revolving around the most anticipated return of Momoshiki. So let's start with number 1, which is all about sacrifice. This theory specifically focuses on characters whose close ones are now Shinjus. Before the Soul Thorn bulb was introduced, it was believed that the stakes of fighting the Shinjus may be too high, as killing them would mean the end of their human counterpart as well. But thankfully that's not the case at all. However, the Shinjus enhancing the stakes of the story is still a massive possibility, and let me explain how. Apart from Jura, all the other Shinjus who have a human version could possess some hidden weakness. The destruction of their tree should kill them as well, and this may be the last resort to handle these beings. Now imagine if this really becomes a thing and Sarada and Konohamaru will need to sacrifice their close ones for the greater good. It would add an emotional layer to the story, which might help some characters attaining their true potential. Either would be safe from this sacrificial bond, as Bug is not that important to the cyborgs, which means his death will not affect them. However, if Code decides to burn down the tree of Bug, then Mamushi must technically die, and maybe that's how we would get introduced to this new plot point. Otherwise, the clone of Bug would get destroyed by Daemon for sure. Well, the second major possibility not just gives a mini plot armor to Kawaki, but also establishes a solid possibility for the death of a major character. I'm talking about one of the instinctual targets of these Shinjus, and how them dying in the plot is inevitable. The whole point of making these living god trees have human targets was to show us their intellectual evolution that has made them crave intelligent species ever since getting enlightened. And if we don't get to see what happens after they devour on their target, it would lead to an incomplete payoff, which is very less likely to happen when almost half a chapter was dedicated to these Shinjus revealing their wills. This puts a red light on all the instinctual targets, but since we know Sarada and Himawari are vital to the plot, they will most likely not get devoured. Then we are left with Aida and Konohamaru, and it is pretty obvious that who's more likely to succumb to an irreversible fate among these two. Daemon would do anything to protect Aida, but Konohamaru unfortunately may not be able to cope with the attack of Matsuri. Even the target of Ryu the 5th Shinju could also get devoured to show us what happens when these beings fulfill their instinctual will. Also, the side quest of these creatures gives a kind of green light to Kawaki, with Jura wanting to kill Boruto anyhow. He would need Kawaki to become his sacrificial Otsutsuki, which is why he won't be harming him unless the common instinctual goal of the Shinjus gets fulfilled. So the reason I think Konohamaru has very less time left in Two Blue Vortex is not just because of his weak existence, but also the curse that masters in the previous generation had to face. Konohamaru might face a fate similar to his uncle Asuma Sarutobi, who died against Hidan. Some other masters that had to give up on their life include Jiraiya and Hiruzen. The third Hokage died during the Konoha crush while sealing Orochimaru, and the death of Konohamaru would confirm the curse of Sarutobi's. 2 generations of this clan has already died while protecting the village, so Konohamaru becoming the third one who would have to give up on his life is a huge possibility based on the ongoing events. It's not just about the generational curse, but also the mere fact that Konohamaru cannot raise to the level of the ongoing enemies no matter what. The writers could have given him some sort of sage transformation or a unique power-up if he was really that important to the plot. But based on the hints that we just discussed, I really think Konohamaru will die sooner or later, and with the death of Boruto's former master, we would finally get to see what happens when a Shinju preys on their instinctual target. Now let's move on to the third theory, something that most of you clicked on this video for. The demigod form of Boruto eliminating the Shinjus once for all. It actually makes sense for Momoshiki to take over his vessel and go on a full-fledged rampage, destroying all these humanoid creatures. So let me explain why I think so. There seems to be a pattern going on with Boruto, where the characters had to climb an extra cliff to get rid of the threat in front of them. For Momoshiki, it was the joint effort of Naruto and Sasuke, concluding with the giant father-son Rasengan. Ishiki was a threat beyond Kaguya, so Naruto had to tap into a never-before-seen transformation, the Baryon mode, to deal with him. Then the assault of Code happened and Kawaki Kawaki had to activate his newly acquired karma to destroy him. The limitless form of code was the next big thing, but it too got handled first with Daemon, the wielder of Shibai's power, and then with the Uzuhiko ability of Boruto. So this makes one thing clear that no existing technique or plans are enough to deal with these tailed creatures, especially their boss Jura, who was able to faint Boruto with a single laser hit. The best way to deal with him must be to either come up with new powers or upgrade the existing ones. And what happens when an Otsutsuki with 1000 years worth of experience obtains a body which has learned a lot of broken techniques? Well, that's your answer. Momoshiki could use the body of Boruto to give Jura the Shinju a tough fight. He would be able to utilize Boruto's abilities better, and that could mark the endgame of these creatures. This would also go with the analogy of characters tapping into newer forms of powers for the sake of wiping out a big threat. Everything that Boruto is able to do can be amplified by Momoshiki, and the experience of the Otsutsuki should technically exceed Jura, since the Ten Tails was a juvenile at first appearance, meaning that he had came to existence not so long ago, while Momoshiki, who's alive from centuries, must be able to perfectly utilize his vessel in getting rid of this monster. But the return of Momoshiki is not just meant for the end of the Shinju saga. His comeback can be more dangerous than the humanoid Ten Tails themselves, and here's why I think so. The powers of Boruto that he's gonna use after amping them up with his essence are way above anything. Imagine if he decides to destroy the Leaf Village or the close ones of Boruto. It'll for sure arise a situation worse than the Shinjus. Since Momoshiki has foresight too, we need to understand that all his moves will be calculated according to what would grant him the greater advantage. But there is some huge difference between his and Kashin Koji's ability to look forward in time, which could be a huge thing for the plot. The prescience allows the user to see almost every possible future, granting him the ability to choose the best moves to secure a safe transcendence into the forthcoming, while Momoshiki's future sight can only see some points of time in the future, with 90% of them not coming true at all. This means the Otsutsuki has a weaker variant of 10 directions, simply because he was on his way of attaining godhood and hadn't become a 4-dimensional being yet, while as the powers directly obtained from Shibai offers a variety to the user in terms of peeking into what's next. This means Momoshiki only gets to see a point in the future and not the other possibilities surrounding that specific event. For example, when he looked into the fate of Naruto, he saw Kurama dying and not the possibility of him coming back. Further, he saw some blue eyes, which was obviously Aida, taking away everything from Boruto. But a point to note is that he wasn't aware about her omnipotence power until it randomly popped in his head back in chapter 76. So either he was just pretending to not know about Aida being the one to ruin Boruto, and the time when he talked to himself about her charm was a move made to provoke the vessel in order to trigger Kawaki. But what makes Momoshiki's future sight complex are the visions from the future. The early ones were all from Boruto's point of view post time skip, but the last one was something that according to Koji should have taken place before omnipotence. This panel of Kawaki with bloodstain looking over Boruto takes place in a timeline where he was successful at killing him before Sarada interrupted. This means Momoshiki's visions are more or less random and he's still developing prescience, while Kashin Koji does have a definite vision to see how many possible futures can turn real. But this doesn't reduce the possibility for Momoshiki to see something that Koji may have missed, an opportunity that he could take to turn the odds in his favor if only Boruto relies on his karma seal at some point. Also, Momoshiki's visions have always been through Boruto's POV and not an overall outlook on what or what may not happen like 10 dimensions. Not to mention, if you notice, Kashin Koji was surprised at hearing Himawari's connection to the Nine Tails, so it's not impossible for Momoshiki to capture a future that Koji wasn't able to catch. But that's not the end of Momoshiki's role. It actually holds a greater significance, which is tied to Kawaki and his journey of becoming an antagonistic figure in the story. When he first noticed Boruto being afraid of the karma, he took a second look at his own karma, which kinda confirmed to him that his theory was correct all along. Momoshiki is still and will always remain a major threat, and that's why the execution of Boruto is necessary. But after seeing what Momoshiki is capable of with the new powers of Boruto, he would be left shattered, and this may act as a huge trigger for him to get more stronger. The path to become a Jigen-inspired individual will open for him, leading to a drastic transformation. Now there are many questions that arise here, like if Kawaki would go so far to exterminate Otsutsukis, why did he spare Boruto's life in the future? Well, I have already answered these questions with never before discussed angles in this video of mine, so check it out after this one if you haven't already. The final theory for today's video talks about the Shinjus being an asset to some characters, especially Sarada, for hints that are too obvious to catch. Hidari was the only being to question his existence and purpose shortly before feeling the gut to prey on Sarada. As this creature is based off Sasuke, it's not unlikely for him to betray his boss to pursue what he thinks may be the right thing. Facing defeat from Sarada and Boruto could be his first step to realizing his ultimate destiny, and the reason I think this theory holds some merit has something to do with Sarada herself. We know she won against Hidari in the tag team, but this doesn't bring her to the level of Boruto and Kawaki by any means. So the best way for Sarada to get more stronger must be under someone's mentorship, and if they are able to change the heart of Hidari somehow, possibly through the Mangenkyo or Talk no Jutsu, then I think he could become a vital asset for the good guys against the Shinju army. It will also be an interesting plot twist considering how all of these beings will face different fates based on their motives. Mamushi would get destroyed by Daemon, Matsuri will devour Konohamaru, Jura might end up getting defeated by Momoshiki, and Hidari could turn out to be a huge help in Sarada's character development. I have a really interesting take on Mamushi and Aida that I might someday make a dedicated video about. You see, Aida was basically the first female computer programmer, and omnipotence is like a programming language that changes everything about the reality. And if you think about it, a bug is like a glitch in the matrix in this context. Like if the programming gets flawed, it could create glitches that may be too hard to handle or could corrupt the entire system. So what if when Mamushi devours Aida, he would activate the Shibai genes to create a glitch through omnipotence that would wreak havoc in the present timeline? It's something that I believe could be really plausible, but I need to do some more research on it before creating a full-fledged video. So make sure to drop your opinions about this theory below and check out this video to unveil more Boruto mysteries. I will see you next time.